blurring the lines between real life and Second Life. Bringing you in-depth information about the people behind the avatars. Giving you insight like you've never heard before. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Fourth Wall with Paul and BK.
Hello everybody, I am the scumbag superstar Paul Slater, and we are back for another edition of the Fourth Wall. I'm here alongside my podcast partner BK and his lovely partner Z. And BK, we're coming off the heels of that big Eric Stewart interview. What'd you think of that?
Oh, that was a great interview. Learned a lot. First time I actually had the opportunity to sit down and actually speak to Eric. So I was just pretty much I could listen to him just tell his stories all day long. That was amazing.
Well, guess what, BK? We're in a little streak of heavy hitters in SL Wrestling. We had Derek Zane, we had Eric Stewart, and we have a maybe even a bigger guy today. Let me introduce him.
Okay.
All right. You can catch him on Overload, which is on Thursdays and sometimes Fridays at 1 p.m. SLT. And he is one of the top guys behind the scenes in Premier Wrestling. And not only that, he is the creator of the Prime HUD that a lot of people across SL Wrestling, not just in Premier, across SL Wrestling use. And I'm speaking none other than Lord Geoffrey himself, LG. LG, welcome to the Fourth Wall.
Thank you very much for having me, guys. It's always an honor to be able to sit down and talk with fellow friends.
Okay, so so we were talking before we went on air here, and Paul, you brought up the fact of LG being the co-creator of the Prime HUD. So I want to test your SO wrestling knowledge.
Uh-oh.
What was the first Fed to ever get to use the Prime HUD?
This might be before my time. VAW?
Nope.
I started in 2000. So
okay.
Or
so
2020, I'm sorry. Yeah.
So LG knows this because it was actually a Fed that LG started. SWE.
Yep.
Wow.
And I was part of that when it opened, and that was the first Fed that ever got to use the Prime HUD. It was
and
basically
my God, did it not work properly?
There was talk about a beta testing area.
Yeah. Back then, I mean, like, I know people moan sometimes now, and they're like, "Oh, this didn't trigger" or whatever. But like back then, oh my God, like it was lucky if the moves even worked. Never mind, like the stuff it does.
Came a long way.
Because it was like sometimes we had to. It was like sometimes we almost had to wear two HUDs. We had to have the Nero HUD and the Prime HUD, as a backup because if the Prime HUD started screwing up, we had to switch immediately over to the Nero HUD, and sometimes vice versa. Almost like an updated version of Pose Ball Wrestling. Okay, so LG. You have been in Premier Wrestling for 1,000 years.
It feels like it.
Right? And we got some news the other day. If anybody was paying attention in our Discord, where we have it when wrestling-related things are put on X and things like that, that it automatically pops up. And we also repost them on our own X account. But there was a big announcement made by Premier Wrestling that they have now partnered with Second Life and are doing something called a gateway program. Would you care to elaborate about that?
I would love to elaborate on this. It's a year plus in the making. We did a lot of stuff with Linden Labs previously, and we did a lot of charity events, as you know, and we did a lot of shows across the grid, and we made a lot of partners and friends and worked with some phenomenal people like Shafia Widdershins, Emmy from the Learning Languages places, and Second Ability. I can just sprout names off forever, but we got talking to one of the Lindens at one of the events, and they were like, "Why don't you go for like a community gateway?" And we never really thought about it, and then we went down the path, and like I said, it was a year in the making. We were literally being checked all the time to check that we met the standards, and it was so many forms and so many things to jump through to get to where we got. And we finally got the community gateway. I think it was probably a week or two ago. And I know that a lot of people have been interested in like what the gateway is, what we're doing, what's the plan with it. Well, up until this point, Premier Wrestling has been about getting as big as they possibly can. Premier Wrestling has grown massively, as you know, and we have built what we think is like the fundamental rulebook on creating a Fed that not only is successful, but also builds revenue that you can actually put back into the Fed, whether keeping it alive or, obviously, the best way is to pay your performers, which is something we've always done, and it's something that we believe in. But we know that the world's hard, and we know that there's only so many wrestlers in the world, and there's only so many times that you can put your show on. So what Premier Wrestling did is we kind of wrote the rule book, and we went, right, this works, this doesn't work. And as we progressed and we got more and more and we got better at the shows, we got to a stage where we went, do you know what? We're going to open another Fed. And we did that on purpose because we wanted to take the rule book from number 1 and move it to number 2 to see if it worked. And it did. Rise came out and was just as successful as Premier Wrestling when it started. And we thought, well, we've either got it or Rise is lucky. So we then created another Fed and put the same rule book and the same training and the same knowledge into that third Fed. And it's been just as successful. Now we're making the gateway. The gateway is our way of giving back to the entire community. We want to give our knowledge, the rule book, and the guides that we've put in place and tested to the entire world of SL Wrestling. And we want to keep Feds alive. Not only that, I can let you know today, one of the things we are going to be building on that gateway is another arena. And that arena is going to be open to any Fed to perform at. So if a Fed is struggling to pay their tier, or they want to perform in an area where it's a different audience, they can put a show on there. And they can put a show on there whenever they want. And that is one of the things we're going to be doing. We're also going to be promoting different fighting sports. So not only wrestling, we're looking at bare knuckle boxing, UFC, and Thai boxing.
Oh, nice.
So, how is it that someone would learn about this gateway? I mean, explain exactly how the gateway works, because the way that I would see it is a gateway, is an opening, like you're coming into something. And
Yeah.
Are you booking or banking, maybe I should say, on people coming into SL already being wrestling fans, or you want to use this to try to convert them into or let them know, hey, there is wrestling? How exactly
It's
are
actually
you?
both.
What's your demographic that you're going after here?
Well, it's actually both. With the Community Gateway, we get what's called an API, which is a special unique number for people to join Second Life. If they join Second Life, they actually don't go to Welcome Island. They drop straight in to our Community Gateway. That's why it's so important that as part of the gateway, we create a tutorial system for new users in which they can actually learn SL. Then they will, if they've come to there's a good chance that they've come off something that's related to wrestling. So it'll either be our website, it'll be our social media, or it'll be some kind of blog that's related to combat sports within Second Life. So as they come from there, they go straight to our land. Now, we don't mind if they're into furry feds, we don't mind if they are into just female wrestling, we don't mind that. We're going to put them through the system. Then, when they finish that system, we will delegate them accordingly to wherever is the best place for them. Again, it's a gateway, it's a community gateway. That doesn't mean it's Premier World, it means it's every Fed in SL's gateway. Now, to the other side of that, I've heard a few people saying, you must have us on there. We're a wrestling Fed. You must. No, we've been selected as the forefront to not govern, but assess who is on there. Now, of course, wrestling Feds who have been around for ages, VWE, all these good Feds, they're going to be on there. We're gonna make sure that happens, 100%. But if a new Fed's just started up and they've got like one person and it's, they've got bad vibes and stuff, we've got to kind of at least know a little bit more about them before we bring them into the program. So that's what it is. It's essentially going to be a place where we can bring people from the outside world who are interested in combat sports and put them in the right place from day one and get them into these feds and also build awareness about it.
Now, is there going to be like like for example, like I found SL Wrestling on YouTube, like just by mistake basically, and that's what made me interested in joining. Is there going to be like a promotional thing, like for people, hey, join this SL Second Life? We have wrestling. Is there going to be like a promotion to get more people into Second Life? As far as like.
So, sorry, I'm just yes,
okay.
dead excited.
Yeah.
So Linden Labs are going to be doing some stuff. A lot of the marketing for the gateway is coming directly from Linden Labs. So they are working heavily with us, and at the moment, combat sports, if you haven't had a look in the search terms and things like that, it's very much not really noticed. There's not really that many combat sports. There's a lot of wrestling groups, as we know, but as for like boxing, I think there's like one major boxing, pretty much nothing for UFC. There's not really much for anything else, and the rest of it's all like role play kind of stuff. So they want to help us to build that side of Second Life, to promote combat sports and actually make it into something so that people are looking for combat sports and roleplay related to that and looking at Second Life. So yeah, there will be promotion stuff with it. If it's like join Second Life through Premier Wrestling and get like a free Linden home, I don't think that will be the case.
Right.
But there may be stuff they may offer. I don't know. Maybe join and get $100 Linden. I don't know.
Yeah, like somebody like me, I've talked about this before. Like, I didn't even know Second Life existed. I was looking for a wrestling game to figure out how to figure this wrestling game out on my PC, and I stumbled across Premiere, and I'm like, what the hell is this? You know what I mean? And then that's how I got into it. So I'm saying, like, even if I didn't know nothing about homes. Like, my thing was just to come in and this to do wrestling. Like, I didn't know I could pay extra money, I could get a home, I can have this and all that. But like, my question was like, hey, like, look, let's just target. This is the niche. Like, let's just say, for example, like the WWE 2K video game is a big thing. Like, let's go after that product right there. Like, as far as them people that play that game, they might be more likely to come on to Second Life and like do this stuff for real. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, that is what we're essentially doing on already in
Right.
YouTube. So we are we're doing a lot of stuff. So if you might have noticed that our Discord is called Premier Wrestling and Gaming.
Yeah.
The reason is because we are getting people who are doing live streams and stuff on video games, particularly within the wrestling video games, pulling an audience in through them wrestling games and then promoting Premiere. So we know that obviously there's a big audience there of people who are enjoying these games, and they don't realize they can live it.
Right. More people probably watch people play wrestling video games than they probably actually watch wrestling in some cases.
I would agree in some particular ones, but it's a huge market, and it is something we've been doing from day one. It's very hard to convert people to Second Life because they don't understand it, and also there's been a bad stigma about the word Second Life and what it entails, and a lot of that's being shifted with the help of Philip Linden finally coming back to Second Life, and a lot of the Lindens now they're trying to move with the times. Like with the mobile coming out, I feel like the mobile's a million miles behind some of the other products out there, like IMVU. So they're sort of trying new things at the moment, and they're very willing to work with. The next thing that's going to be coming out, I can tell you, is going to be a language thing, so that everyone can speak in a different language, and it will automatically translate that to text, and vice versa. So if, say, BK was talking to somebody who was Spanish, he'd type in English, and they would receive it in Spanish. Right. Same with verbal, it would automatically type it out for you. So that's something they're working about integrating in probably the first quarter of coming up soon, which is going to be with AI.
Wow.
So.
Okay, so you mentioned earlier, that some of the other feds are, getting a little bit upset, think like you're trying to take over monopoly. But if you think about it, it would kind of look that way, because look at how many brands fall under the PW umbrella. And we just had a conversation with Eric Stewart, and his, I'm sure he was exaggerating, but his words were, there's 56 hours of wrestling in SL. every week. That is way too much. We need to do something about it. So when they see that more brands are opening under Premier, and then this gateway coming out, to be honest, it's almost like you're trying to shove yourselves down everybody's throat. How are you going to avoid that stigma?
I think a lot of that comes from the fact that we are screaming and shouting about what Premier does, so everyone hears it. And I'll tell you now, the fans that are on Premier Wrestling, most of the fans that watch Premier Wrestling don't watch Rise, and most of the fans on Rise don't watch AVW. This is why it kind of upsets me a bit, because they think that, like, they're saying, oh, you're taking our fans. Well, no. If Feds should have their own fan base. I know people search for wrestling, but people want to follow the stories, they want to follow the wrestlers, they want to follow the performers of the people that are entertaining them, that they enjoy. And there's people who are at VWE who watch the show constantly, who don't ever even know what Premier Wrestling is. And when people say, like, we're taking the time zones and we're taking the Fed, no, we're not. We're not doing it. We're not promoting in, like, your group and going in your group and standing there and saying, like, oh, all the fans from this place come to ours. We're just screaming and shouting about what we do, which is some of that I put down to, like, maybe they should be doing more marketing. If they're worried about the fact that we're taking over, then maybe you should look inwards and look at, like, why people are leaving or why you're not getting enough fans or whatever. And I guarantee you, it's not because we happen to put a show on at the same time as you. But again, with the gateway, we're going to be able to give the information that we've learned to these feds. I mean, we're not going to force it to them. We're going to say, if you want it, you can have it. If you don't want it, you don't have to have it. We're not saying we're the best at everything. But we can get round these things that people are saying, where they're saying, oh, you know, we want to do charity events, and you're doing a charity event on the same time, and both of them can be full. They can both be full of people. It's just that you're not doing the right advertisement to draw the people in. You're not doing the right recruitment to keep the people, and you're not doing the right training to, you know, make sure that you've got a strong foundation. And a lot of that comes to money, because they're worried about the tier, people, because people leave SL all the time, and the right foundations. You know, one thing, I'll bring this up, BK, and this is something that I see a lot in wrestling. They'll get 3 people together, and they'll all pay a bit towards the sim. It's already a nightmare, because if one of those people decides they don't want to pay the sim because of whatever reason, the other 2 have either got to go and find somebody from the Fed who probably hasn't got the right kind of mentality, or the whole Fed goes down the shit.
Yeah.
So the foundation work there is something that's important. That's why we want to provide people with a free place to play and do the performances, because you're not having to worry about the tier then. So you can put the right people in the management, not having to worry about who's got the biggest wallet that they can put money into the Fed and keep the Fed alive. You can find the right person for the role because they're the right person for the role. And with that, you're able to grow. And the training that you can get, they can give to marketing, we can teach people, like, how to fill a sim. It's not that hard. It's just you've got to know how to do it.
I mean, you know, all very valid and fair points, but you know, one of the things that, you know, because I like to write, I feel that I'm a very creative person, or at least I told I am, because I'm a Pisces. That's what I've been told. But one of the things that I would see as being a problem, or not, maybe I shouldn't say problem, as an obstacle, is because Paul and I actually had this happen to us before, where we were working with somebody, had a great story written up. That person decides they didn't want to be there anymore, left, went someplace else, and then used what we did in a story before we had a chance to do it, and it looked like that we were copying them. So with so many feds under the Premier umbrella, how in the world are you able to keep, or are you able to keep stories from getting watered down, where everything looks like, well, we did it over here, let's just do it over here because it worked over here, and are you encouraging people to say, hey, you really need to step up and stand out because you want to create your own fan base? Please make it to where every single show, everybody else going, oh, we need to top that show. Are you all encouraging that?
So with the feds, they're totally different. So Premier Wrestling is obviously ran by Ace most of the time, and Vince now and again, and me every once in a while. And the mentality of Premier Wrestling has always been that the YouTube show is our product. The actual performances in the arenas and the ticket system and all of that, and the fans that turn up, our product is the YouTube channel, or the whole focus of Premier Wrestling is that YouTube channel. We want to make that video and that show the best we can possibly make it. Rise is totally different. Rise is all about people who are coming up in the system. It's about people who are actually rising, hence the name, in wrestling. We want to take people who haven't had an opportunity to shine maybe on the premiere show, and actually to shine there and become superstars. So yeah, we want to encourage them to go up. AVW is again a totally different brand. It's got some people in there who are phenomenal wrestlers that can't perform on Premier Wrestling due to time zones. So you'll notice that the time zones are so drastically different on that particular show because we couldn't take them. They wanted to be in Premier Wrestling, but they couldn't be in Premier Wrestling because of the time zone. And we didn't want to turn people away. So we offered that show so that these people who couldn't be on that show could be there. Now, is it a B show? Is it a C show? No, they're all A shows. They are all A shows. They're all totally different. So we don't have that mentality of like, we don't want people to shine. We want like people to shine. In fact, we split the belts between the three groups to encourage different storylines. So you'll notice that like the hardcore belts, I think is on like Attitude, but there isn't one on Overload, and then there's like another belt over at Rise that's not over at Premiere, and there's another belt over at AVW that's not over at the other two. And it's because we want to try and encourage storylines around the belt. Would we hash storylines together? No and yes at the same time. Like, things work sometimes, and you can do variations of that, and you'll see that in real life wrestling. But we don't encourage it to be like, oh yeah, well that worked here, so carry it over to there. Like, we wouldn't do that. As for like storylines crossing other people, and what you mentioned, somebody moving over, it's hard to govern that because we don't know what they've done over there. That is why we created that group. Well, we didn't create the group, but we're in the group that is communication between all of the Fed owners. Yeah. Because we aren't mind readers. A lot of people think we're like going to all their shows and watching their stuff and stealing ideas and all this. We're not. We're busy. Like, I'm busy building. Vince is busy writing storylines. Our marketing team is busy doing marketing. Our champions are out daily at different events promoting themselves. And the show's going on every single day. We haven't got the time to go and sit and watch, like another Fed storylines. But if somebody was to come over to our Fed and do a storyline, and their Fed owner was to come to us and say that was ours, we would instantly jump in and say, like, you can't do that. But we don't know.
Go ahead. Finish your statement. Finish what you're saying.
No, that's what it is. And that's what we're trying to draw the line on going forwards, is the ability to be able to contact me, Vince, or anyone on the team. And we're not going to just fob you off. Like, if you're from another Fed or you're from a different thing, we're not just going to go, oh yeah, well, we're just going to do it anyway. Like, we're not going to do that. We're going to listen to you and go, oh yeah, shit, we didn't know this. Because we don't know everything. We can't know everything. Right. So we do depend on people coming and saying, we've got a charity event on this date. We really want to promote it. It's a big one. Could you please not put anything on that date? Not only will we not put anything on that date, we'll promote the show for you.
I mean, I agree with you 100%.
We don't know.
Like, when I was with OEW, like, me and BK were just talking about this, I would try to go to as many shows as I can to see what everybody was doing to try to come up with something completely different. But, like, with Eric Stewart said, there's 56 hours of wrestling. It's bound to happen where somebody's going to be like, wait a minute, that looks familiar. You know what I mean? Like, it's bound to happen because there's so many hours of SL wrestling. Like, people come up with an idea like, wow, this is a really good idea. And then some other promotion might have the same idea, but it's a little different. It looks similar. I mean, I've been through in my time in SL where I've seen things and seen people say, "Oh man, like they're stealing my stuff. We did that over here." And my thing was always like, "No, I mean, you're not really thinking outside the box. It's kind of a regular storyline. It's nothing like crazy. You know what I mean? Like, so it's bound to happen with that many hours of wrestling in SL each week.
It's the same. It's the same as a club in SL. Imagine you go to one club, you listen to rock music, and then you go to another club, and it's exactly the same lineup of rock music.
Right.
Unless you know to go to the clubs, you're not going to have that experience. And it's the same. That's why I keep saying to stop thinking about what we're doing and start thinking about what you're doing. Because if you are constantly getting new people, you're doing recruitment properly, you're marketing properly, you're working on, your shows, it doesn't fucking matter what we're doing. We can do anything we want. And you're still going to have tons and tons of people over there. You're going to be making tons of tips and tons of money. You're going to have tons of sponsors. And you're going to be happy as Larry. And half of the people who are your fans are never even going to know about what we do. The reason people are worried about what we're doing is because we scream so loud that everyone is hearing us. And we wanted people to do the same. Well, Vince thrives on competition. He wants feds to challenge and be bigger and work harder. But it's got to the stage where a lot of people have just kind of gone, Premier Wrestling, like they're just stealing our stuff, they're just being nasty, and it's not that way at all. We want to light the fire under these places and get them going. And for all the people who don't like us, part of the reason that wrestling is so keen right now, and part of the reason that Linden Labs has even noticed wrestling, and part of the reason that we're able to have as many wrestlers in some of these feds as we had. Take it back 3 years, 4 years, we were barely rubbing together 3 wrestlers in a fed. Now, there's so many feds out there that are full of wrestlers and putting on shows. It's because we've gone out there and gone wrestling. Rather than what they thought wrestling was, sex wrestling and that kind of stuff. Now people are going, these are real deal. And a lot of that comes from what we did, whether you like it or not. That's true.
But do you like that? Do you like that, that attitude towards, people, and excuse my language, people saying, yeah, fuck PW? Do you like that people say that? Or, that you guys are so successful? You understand what I'm saying? I don't mean in a derogatory way, but, that you guys are so, successful in everything you've done. You got this thing with Linden Labs. You know how SL is, LG. People are like, oh, man, fuck them people. You know what I mean? Are you good with that? Do you like that kind of, yeah, we're, this is what we, you know what I mean? Kind of take pride in
I don't. I really don't. Because my whole stick from day one has been, I want to make you BK knows when I left VAW, which was Vince's fed, I set up SWE. Now I didn't set up SWE because I wanted to be the owner of a fed. I set up SWE to keep wrestling alive. I wanted to keep that group doing the storylines that they'd written and wanted to do and make them people have a great time. And I didn't know what I was doing. So when I went over there, it wasn't for me. It was for everyone else in the fed. I just wanted to keep them happy. And that's exactly the same way as I've always been. I don't want another fed looking at us and kind of going, oh, those bastards. No, that's not what I'm doing. I'd rather they come to us and say, well, how the hell are you doing all this and we're not? And I'll go, this is how, and let us help you. We want to help you. It does not help Premier Wrestling in the slightest when a fed closes down. Right. Because it's open market season, and everyone goes in there to harvest what's left of the fed. And on top of that, there's a lot of drama there, there's a lot of bad vibes there, and all the storylines and all the work that they've put into there, it's literally starting again. We don't want that. It's better to have a multitude of feds because some people like Marmite, some people don't like Marmite. Some people like hardcore wrestling, some people like PG wrestling. We want so much diversity with so many different storylines because then there's something for everyone.
So you were just saying just a moment ago about saying that you wish that the other feds would come to you and ask you what you're doing. That way you could help them and say, look, if you would do this, or maybe if you do this, and try to give them some pointers and try to guide them so that they're keeping up or maybe even surpassing you. But you also made a comment earlier that there is a Fed owners chat, communications chat. Are you saying that there's no communication in that communications chat where this can be worked out instead of people just groaning every time you all
Well,
do something?
as you know, BK, and as you know, in the world of SL, there is people bottle things up. So Vince is very open in that group, and so's all the other Fed owners. We all talk, and I would like to think that everything was quite civil in there.
Yeah,
Sadly,
I was
it's
in
not.
that. I was in that group. It's very communicative. I was in there with
Yes, but
OEW actually.
sadly, things build up. They build up, and I think a lot of people have had a lot of malice from us for a lot of different reasons, especially as we were coming up in the world. And it's all bottled up. And I think recently, over the last couple of weeks, it's like people are like, "Oh, they did this and they did this, and oh, the fuckers, they did this," and it's like it's all come out, and it's like, well, actually, half the stuff you're saying we didn't even know. Like, oh, they put a charity show on at the same time as us. We didn't know. Like, there was no one. No one came to us and said, "Oh, we've got a charity show on this day." Whatever. And it's like, oh, we stole a wrestler. We didn't steal wrestler, but there's no poaching going on. Again, a lot of people think that we go to these shows and we look for like the best wrestler we can, and then we like poach them. We ain't got time for that. All of our wrestlers come from landing in to our recruitment centre, and they go through the process. Most of the wrestlers that you see on the Fed are either new, or they've literally just walked to the recruitment centre and signed up. So when people say, "Oh, yeah, no, I was asked by Premier Wrestling to join," they weren't. They went over and signed up, because we won't go to them directly and say, like, "Do you want to join," kind of thing. We'll only do that if we know that they don't have a contract. So if someone is like not wrestling at all, Derek Zane, for example, we went to Derek Zane and talked to him because we know he's not wrestling. He's got no contract. If somebody we know has quit wrestling, like I think Paul, I think you had a break from wrestling. And
Well,
you
OEW closed. Yeah, Vince contacted me.
Yeah, so we knew there was no the contract there, so we contacted you, but we never did it when you were like in there. So it's the same principle. A lot of people think they know what we do and that we're doing something malicious. We're not. We're doing everything legit, and the only way I can say that is the two things. Is one, Linden Labs wouldn't work with us if we were. They proper scrutinised everything we did, literally everything. They came to loads of shows. They went through all our paperwork. They went through all our finances. Everything they went through to find out any little bit of nasty stuff we're doing. They went through everything, and they didn't find anything. So that tells you one thing. The other thing is, I would not be involved with anything that hurt anyone in SL. My background has always been in helping people. It's been in mentoring people. It's been in teaching. You can look back at the history of the stuff I've done. You'll see it all there. And I wouldn't be involved if it was something where like we were purposely damaging people. This gateway was a blessing. As soon as I heard about it, I was like, I want to be in charge of that. Because this is the time where Premier Wrestling can now build a community of all the wrestling fans the right way and help people get the seen that should be seen. And get people seen by the right people as well. Not just like people who are just in SL. Like proper people who are interested in what they're doing.
It's interesting. I mean, I didn't know that. I mean, like my perception of it was like, oh, they're going to get like new recruits. You know what I mean? Like new recruits coming in. I didn't know that you guys were open to having every other Fed in there. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, we're also at training school, so we got a train program, and we know out there in SL there's some phenomenal trainers. We know this. We know there's some feds that put on phenomenal training, but there's some feds that don't. There's feds out there that are struggling with training. There's feds out there that are struggling to have the resources to be able to train people. Our training programs are open. We are going to let anyone come to the training program from any Fed and go through the training process. Right. Whether they be furry wrestlers, they be, vets who just want to brush up, whatever. And we're not going to be like, oh, well, now you've got to join one of our Feds. No, you can put anyone in that Fed and just go through the program and go back to your Fed. Yeah. So you know that you don't have to worry about the training of somebody, because they're going to go through the process and they're going to come back to your Fed and they're going to be a superstar. Right. So you're going to be working with 6 superstars rather than have to worry that 3 of them are great and 3 of them need more training. And to do that, we're going to actually issue a certificate. So we're going to issue a premier certificate, and that premier certificate is going to say that we approve, but our whole program at Linden Labs, our whole thing, approve this particular wrestler. He's been through the program, he's done all the stuff, he can do promos, or she can do promos, and they can do wrestling, they can do everything they need to do. And that certificate should be enough to make you walk into any Fed, and they go, okay, cool, I'll take you. And not only take you, but put you on a good storyline.
Right. So let me ask you this. Well, let's get to what you do right now. What do you find in Premier Wrestling? What do you find that you do? I mean, whether it's let's not even talk about the wrestling that you do, because you're a phenomenal wrestler. You're phenomenal on the mic. We know that.
That's getting beaten up.
Everything you do behind the scenes. What do you find the most difficult thing to do?
Oh fuck. I think I would say getting people to understand what we do. I think that's the hardest thing, whether it be in SL or out of SL. When I try and explain it to people, it's like they're like, so you're like a fighting game, and it's like, no, we're not. Like it's quite difficult. I mean, I would say the building, but building's getting easier now with mesh and things like that. I think one of the main things is keeping up with Vince. Like, Vince's mind works a million miles an hour. And he comes up with some phenomenal ideas. And he is, like, always thinking outside the box. The problem is that sometimes he's thinking so outside the box that it's not even been thought about. And he's like, okay, LG, now, like, make this happen. And it's like, I don't even know if that is possible. No one's done this before. And then so it's sometimes kind of like one of the hardest jobs is like breaking Vince's heart by telling him it's not going to happen.
It's too difficult. Yeah.
Yeah.
It keeps you busy.
Okay, so
well.
Oh, go ahead, finish.
No, I was going to say everyone thinks Vince is a bad guy, and I'll be honest with you, he's not. He's really not. I've known him since I started, and he plays a bad guy, and he has a front on him. Like, for people, he has to have that front because he's got to run and manage so many people in the Fed. I mean, you think how many people are in Premier Wrestling, how many people are in all the other Feds, and he has to be the brick wall that is the end say on everything. Yeah. And then on top of that, he has to honestly trust these people with a lot of Linden dollars sometimes with some of the accounts, a lot of power within building, with like being able to rip buildings down and things like that. And he has to know that the people who he trusts and the people who are around him, like, they believe in what he is and what he does. And I'll tell you now, like, that guy, the front of everything he does, and you can believe this or not, is the wrestlers. When we set up Premier Wrestling, the first thing he said to me was, we're going to pay the wrestlers. That was the first thing he said. Before anything else, he was like, we're going to make a Fed, and we're going to make it a YouTube show, and we're going to pay the wrestlers. That was day one.
Yeah.
And he has always been that way. He's always been like, how can we give things back to... Like, we were talking yesterday, and he's like, okay, so we pay the wrestlers, great. I want to give them locker rooms. I want to give them vans that they can like get dressed on. I want to give them signable posters. I want to give them action figures. He's always about what he can give the wrestlers for what they give us. Because if it isn't for the performers, we wouldn't have a show. And that is the forefront of what Vince is about. It's always about what he can give the performers, what he can give the people who are working underneath him. And whether you believe that or not, that is literally his bread and butter. And that is the only thing he's got at the very top of his list.
Okay, so, you've been in SL Wrestling for quite a while, and, due to the fact that you are British, everybody always associates with the Bond villains. And that's what makes
we
you
are the bad
such
guys.
yeah, and that's what makes you such a great heel. But my question is did you set out to intentionally be the heel that you turned into, or did it just develop?
I was a big fan of a couple of people. I really liked IRS. I really liked the $1 Million Man. Obviously, I like the Undertaker, but he wasn't really that kind of like you have to have a strong voice for that kind of character. And what I liked about IRS was that he was like everyone hated the taxman at the time, and like it was legit. So I remember the creation of LG. Originally, I was Matt the Money Beat. I don't know if you remember that. It was a long time ago. And I was like a guy who basically I was doing the IRS gimmick. So I was kind of coming in from Linden Labs to tax the Fed or Linden dollars because they didn't have any money. So it was like I was coming in there and being like, right, you haven't paid your tier costs, and like I was the bad Linden. Like that was the gimmick. Don't tell Minori that. I'm sure she'll love that one. But that was my first gimmick. And then I remember talking to it was Derek Zane who came up with Lord Geoffrey, and he was like we sat down and he was like, what is the most hated? And this is the best way to write a heel, by the way. And if you want to do a heel, is find out what you hate. Like, sit down and think, what do I really hate? And I was like, I hate bosses. I hate people who think they're better than everyone else. And I hate people who, like, you try and explain something to them and they literally, like, blank what you're saying and they're like, they're right. They're not even going to like, listen to what you're saying. They're like, they're always right, you're always wrong, and it doesn't matter, like, what it is. And I thought, great, that's who I'm going to be. And then Derek was like, well, why don't you be a lord? Because you're, like, British. So why don't you be, like, lord? And I was like, well, what can my second name be? And at the time, it was during that time of Game of Thrones, where there was that Joffrey guy.
Uh-huh.
And he was a real god in the arse. So we were like, Lord
Joffrey. That's an understatement.
Yeah. So Lord Geoffrey was the name, and I've been called that a few times by accident. And I was like, I can't call it Lord Geoffrey because then it's like obvious that it's that. So I became Lord Geoffrey, and that's where it came down. And it got abbreviated to LG. But yeah, no, essentially that's where that whole gimmick came from. Was I hate that guy. I hate LG. Like, I absolutely hate him. He's everything I hate about a person.
But yet you have so much fun doing it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I have to be the hatedest thing I can think of.
Okay, so I'm going to go back into the memory banks here just a little bit.
Oh, I'm going to get you in a bit.
We'll see. You had a butler, Jeeves.
Yes, I still have a butler.
Okay, now, there was a short period of time in Premiere where you and Insidious had gotten into a storyline.
That's right.
Where Insidious set a great big huge picture of you on fire. He lit your personal dressing room on fire. So the only question I have is Jeeves okay?
Jeeves is fine. I think to be fair, the poor bloke at the moment. I would love to say he's got a better job and left LG and he's moved on, but he's actually still at the manor working for LG. But LG is just a little nicer now.
Oh, really? What happened?
I still feel for that bloke. Because he gets the stiff end, but I'll tell you what, he can give it back. He can give it back as well. So yeah, no, I do remember you setting things on fire. I like to do that.
My favorite thing, I was on comms for this, when Dante was the GM and he wanted to make LG a better person, and he had a dress.
Oh, I still got that suit.
And he dressed him in that flower suit.
He did.
Oh God, that flower suit was awful.
Great.
Got it.
Oh my God, that
still got it.
Awful.
Still got it saved. Still got
it saved. Killed Grandma's couch.
I think that
It's
suit needs
gorgeous.
to. I think you need to take that suit and put it in some kind of showcase and do it. Kind of like one of Elvis's jumpsuits, like Paul's Pepto, like his
It's
Pepto
very
suit.
funny you say that because that has been brought up, and we are looking at doing. So at the moment, we're building. Have you seen our wrestling figures? Has anyone seen our wrestling
Yeah, I seen
figures?
them. I seen them.
And not lately.
Yep.
I haven't. No.
Okay, well, we've got brand new wrestling figures, and part of what we're going to be doing soon, later down the line, after we've done a few more, is we're going to be doing called a Legacy Series. Not the Legacy Series like. We might change the name, actually. I think VWE did like a Legacy Series, so we don't want to copy anyone. But it's going to be basically wrestlers who've either been in Premier Wrestling or events that happened in particular variations of wrestlers that have like a big impact. And one of those is LG wearing that suit. So
Really?
you'll be able to get a figure of LG wearing that absolutely hideous suit. But there'll be people
Wow.
like Omega who used to be in there, Shade who used to be in there. Some other people who you'll probably know who used to be a big part of what we do over there, and also big wrestlers who've like attended and come in and done special things. And that's what we're going to be doing with this special series is kind of playing homage to like really amazing moments that we've been able to have with amazing people. So
Yeah,
Now,
they had
when you say
the poster that was funny because it was like dress nice, be nice, and it was like profits.
profit, yeah.
so when you talk about moments stuff like that, are you all gonna like go back through the archives and like put maybe some kind of video package together? And the only reason why I say this is like one of my biggest
Wish we
moments that I ever had in VAW was the time we had a free preview going on, and across the stage there was those great big huge VAW letters, and I got super kicked off the top of the W.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Do you remember
yeah,
the backstage fight that they had when I think it was Omega? It was during the time. I feel like you were there when we stupidly thought it was a good idea to take all of the fans from the front of the arena and then lead them round the side to have a street fight in the back and then lead them back round to the front. And we thought that it was going to be totally, we make mistakes, like that was one of the mistakes that we made. And it was a really good match, and I was really surprised how good it was. That's one of the matches that sticks in my head. I think, so this is why I'm going to bring you up, BK, because this is like, I always get asked the same questions normally in these interviews, and you're probably going to ask me anyway. Is what's your best match you've ever seen, and what's your worst match you've ever seen? And I always use you BK for not because of you're the worst, but I feel like you were in the worst match ever.
okay.
If I bring your attention to a certain individual who decided to fall asleep before they came out, do you remember that incident?
We're talking back
It was
to
at
VAW. We're
VAW.
talking at VAW. Is that when Insidious had the
It
match
was
with?
you. It was yes.
Was it me? It was
And
me.
it was either you or it was Insidious. I can't remember.
Was that the?
But I know.
Is that the match where I had to wrestle the whole match in the corner on invert?
Yes. So what happened, right, is this person, we're not going to name any names, but this person, this individual, fell asleep in the gorilla position. And had their mic open and was openly snoring in gorilla position. And just before their music hit to come out, poor BK had to invert, drag them from the back, and wrestle the entire match on invert, back and forth, and lose.
Yeah.
And then drag them to the back. And that is the worst match I've ever had to see somebody put on.
Now, here's the thing. Now, yes, I agree. That was pretty bad. But here is what made that storyline even worse. Was the following week, the opponent that Insidious had became the first person to ever unmask Insidious. So not only did I have to wrestle on an inverted match the week before, Insidious lost his mask the following week.
Yeah. Yeah.
Knowing BK as well as I do, and being in calls with him when something don't go right, I can't imagine how he. I would love to hear that epic losing shit
Here's
moment that he probably had that day.
Now here's
Oh
the
yeah, but
thing.
like let's
Now,
just say that when he got backstage, he logged off, and I don't think anyone was going to contact him for the next 24 hours.
well,
He
now
was
here,
not a happy bunny.
here's the thing about it was then we were not we didn't record shows. Nobody was doing anything on YouTube and all this. So everything that I was saying, yeah, my wife, my real wife, she was coming in asking what's going on, and I just gave her this look, and she just kind of turned around and walked away. And then as soon as that match was over, I didn't say a word to anybody. LG's right. I logged off, and I walked in, and I grabbed a beer out of the refrigerator. She goes, "What's your fucking problem?" And I told her, and she went, "Okay, never mind. I'm sorry."
Yeah, yeah.
I went off. I
It
was
was
pissed for about a week over that one.
The craziest story I have with I mean I know BK sometimes he gets how he is, but the most patient I've ever seen him is I had a match in OEW, and I go out there. It was probably like maybe my first or second match. I actually talked about this probably a couple episodes back, and I was using the Prime HUD and it all froze, and I'm like, what the fuck? And he's like, all right, calm down. You're going to go here. You're going to reset this. Everything's going to be okay. Everybody, and remember that day? You were like super calm about it. And then we went to work with somebody else, like maybe a couple months later, and they had the same issue I got. And he's like, what the fuck? You should be testing this before you come out. Remember
Now,
that?
wait a minute. Now, wait a minute. In all honesty, being patient with somebody who's just getting into this for the very first time is totally different than working with somebody who's been doing it for 2 or 3 years. That's why you saw. That's why you saw the other side.
It used to be the other way around. It used to be like if you're a vet, they'd treat you nice, and like if you're a new person, you'd get the other way. But like it's sort of switched on its head now, where like new people were kind of like, it's okay, you can make mistakes, whereas like vets are like, you must do it right. If you don't like, if it's not 100% right, it's And I think that
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a quick sponsor break. Aran's Domain is a SL-themed server for friends, family, and the SL wrestling community. They have all sorts of channels and categories that may pique your interest and are currently tied to several other feds in the SL community, whether Rain works there or not. They do show their support for the family in the best way that they can. If you wish to become a member and join us, feel free to ask herself or Chrissy, and they will get back to you. Welcome to the Aran family, and the door is always open. LPW, or known as Limitless Pro Wrestling. Catch them at 12 p.m. SLT on Sundays. Premier Wrestling. Attitude, Mondays at 1 p.m. SLT. All Victory Wrestling, or AVW, Wednesdays 4 p.m. SLT. Overload, Thursdays 1 p.m. SLT. Unplugged, Saturdays at 1 p.m. SLT. And Rise, Sunday at 2 p.m. SLT. All of our sponsors' Discord links can be found in the description below. And welcome back. Thank you very much. Stuck around this long. It's been a very interesting conversation here with LG. LG, you said not too long ago about your time is very limited because you wear so many hats, and you've been doing this, like I said earlier, for 1,000 years. When you do go get an opportunity, do you ever go to other feds just not necessarily to compare, but just to see, like, hey, okay, they're doing something different, they're doing something out of the box, and it's like, okay, if they're doing this, then maybe we need to expand a little bit. Do you ever get the opportunity to do that, or do you just worry about what's going on under the PW umbrella?
Yes and no is the answer. A lot of the time is spent, underneath the PW umbrella. I'm not really looking outwards for a lot of it. And normally, if something is unique, somebody will tell me. So somebody will say, you should see what they did over here. And I'll be like, okay, cool, what did they do? And I'll explain to them, wow, that's really cool. I wish I'd have seen it. A lot of the time when I'm going to watch other feds, it's through the YouTube. A few recorded stuff, I will watch different people's matches through the videos, and I'll watch like how things are going and like cool camera angles they're using or lighting or things, and like take what works and take what doesn't work, and I'll do some research like that and try and integrate that into what we're doing, and also go and ask them kind of how they're doing it. Like, for example, I remember when I first saw WPWF, and I was like, wow, the lighting's amazing. And then Karma came and explained the lighting, and then we integrated it into Rise. So Rise has the same lighting as WPWF. So there's times when I really don't have much time, and I'm not just saying that when people are like, oh, I haven't got time, send me like note cards because I can't thingy. In real life, I'm working 24/7 with my actual job. Then on top of that, I've got my geek printing business that's doing all that. On top of that, I've got a freelance business where I'm doing web design and all the rest of it. And then on top of that, I've got Premier Wrestling.
How do you have the time?
Dude, you don't even have time to get laid. Let's do all this.
Yeah, exactly. Like literally, the only time I get in a day is like I'll have something to eat, and then when I'm watching programs or films, it's like just before I go to bed. I've got like a TV that comes out of my bed, and that's how I watch movies because I haven't got time to sit in my living room and watch a film. Like I have to watch it as I'm falling asleep, and it's like that all the time. So when people are like, oh, LG is ignoring me, or like, LG doesn't go to other feds. It's like, I literally, if like right now I'm doing this podcast with you. Soon as this finishes, I'm going straight over to the community gateway to help with some building. Straight after that, I've got some freelance work I've got to do at home. Like I've got to do email stuff. Then I've got to do stuff to catch up with work straight after that. And then straight after that, I've got to go to the welcome community thing and write down all of the tutorials so that we can convert them into different languages for our tutorial thing. And right now, it's 9 o'clock. So what time do you think I'm getting to bed?
Oh,
and then I've got work in the morning at 6 a.m.
And exactly how much cocaine do you do?
Yeah, right.
I need to do a lot. That's like an average day for me. Like it's like that all the time.
Wow.
I'm never gonna say I'm too busy ever again.
Yeah, right. Never will I ever say I'm too busy because I'll just be like, yeah, I'm not really that busy. Wow.
It's crazy. It is crazy. Like with the days I don't do something, something's wrong. Like something's up. I'm either ill or something's wrong.
Like this. Let's just proves one thing though, LG. Like all joking aside, like you have all that going on in your life. It must show how much you actually love. Excuse me. How much you actually love doing the SL wrestling stuff. If you're taking time out of your busy, like you're busy without even the SL wrestling. To take the time that you have to do the things that you do and do such a remarkable job at doing the things you do, you have to love doing this stuff. It proves that you love doing this stuff.
Also, it's not just the fact that I love doing what I do. It's the fact that all of the performers that do this, they're giving something back. Every single wrestler who performs, everybody who's in the Fed, whether they're doing, commentary or just a management role or whatever, they're doing it for the Fed. Their little bit has a contribution to everyone. And it's the same as me. The more I put in, the more that feeds down and feeds to everyone. I get the biggest joy when I see somebody using a thumbtacks that I made, or a hood that I used, or doing something interesting with a hood I never thought about doing, or anything like that. And I get excitement from seeing that. I'm like, I was able to help them do what they dreamed to do.
Right.
And that's, for me, the greatest satisfaction anyone can have. Whether it be teaching someone, because I teach Blender now. I'm doing like a course on Blender. And I see people creating stuff in Blender. I'm like, this person's going to make amazing things now. Because I helped them learn. But they wanted to do this anyway. They had that in their head, but they couldn't put it down on paper, or they couldn't build it. But they had it up there in their head their entire time. So I've given them the tool to unleash their dreams. And that's one of the things I've always wanted to do. Whether it be, I was going to be a teacher initially, that was what I was going to do before I became a graphics designer.
Doing a hell of a job.
Absolutely, you are. Now, LG, I'm going to ask you what I've asked a couple of the other guests that we've had on here. We talked to Baza, we've talked to Derek, and most recently we spoke to Eric. And there's always names that comes up anytime people within the community, when you mention SL Wrestling, when you're like, okay, give me some names of some people in SL wrestling, that really made their mark. And it's no particular order, it really isn't. But your name always seems to come up. How do you feel about being so respected in the community that you have people that actually there have been people that's been around in the community longer than you have, who will still put your name up there as somebody that they look up to and somebody that they really respect? What's your stand on that?
I'll be honest with you, I tried to think about it because I'm my own worst enemy, and like I'm not very good at people like being like thank you. I'm not really very good at that. Um, it's an honor, and I do what I do, and I've always done what I do for other people so that they can live the dreams that they want to live. Because not everyone's got the greatest life in the world. And Second Life is such a magical place, and it can really get you out of some bad spots. It did initially for me. It can also teach you skills that you can use in real life, whether it be self-confidence, whether it be the ability to speak in groups, whether it be meeting your next partner. There's a lot of things you can do here, and I always believe that I want to make people's dreams come true. So if they're like, I want to do this, I want to give them the tools to do it. And I don't care, if you can't do it or whatever, or you've got disabilities or whatever, I'll do my damned hardest because that's something that you love. And I think that comes from my artist background and also from my graphics background. As long story short, I was... I came from a background where I was bullied as a kid, and I bet you hear that all the time. I know it's kind of like that's the nature of being a bit of a nerd. But I went through graphics college, and I worked really hard in graphics. And at the time, I really didn't focus on my work very well, and I was actually let go from the graphics course. And a man who used to be one of my lecturers, he took me into a room, and it was an exit interview, and he said, like, okay, you're going now, like, you're leaving. And he waited until everyone had left the room, and he bent over to me, and he whispered in my ears, he said, the first and last words from your mouth from this point on are going to be, would you like fries with that?
Wow.
And that's what he said to me, and from that day on, I had a massive explosion in my head, and I was like, do you know what? Not only am I going to inspire people to do what they want to do in their life, I am going to do what I want to do in my life, and it doesn't matter if I've got a piece of paper that says I can do it, or I've got the qualifications that say I can do it, or I haven't got the physical ability to do it. I'm going to do it. And not only am I going to do it, I'm going to show that I can do it and other people can do it too. Because people like that in the world who put people down, or people hurt people, or lie, who are bullies, who are mean to people, really have an impact on people and really hurt them. And it stunts them from doing anything. And I wanted to be the other person. I wanted to be the guy who says, no, forget that. You can do whatever you want to be able to do. And that's when people come to me and they're like, can't be done. I'm like, it bloody well can be. Like, it's going to be done. Like, we're going to find a way. And that's where my mindset comes from. And that's why everyone's always like, oh, he's super inspirational. He, like, does all these crazy things that haven't been done. It's because someone's come up to me and said, I really want to do this, but it's just not possible. I'm like, you're damn right it's not possible, but it's going to be. Yeah. And that's where my background comes from. So there's a little bit of insight into why my mentality is the way it is. I'm fucked up.
I never knew that about you. I really didn't.
That's a hell of a story. That's good inspiration for a lot of people.
So really quick before we
told you that.
Yeah, well, before we get out of here, in your opinion, just really, really quick, what do you feel is the biggest Achilles heel when it comes to SL wrestling today? What's the one big, huge issue that seems like everybody has? Other than the fact of thinking that PW is trying to take over. I'm just talking about just in general. What do you think it is?
We're not. I promise you we're not. I'll be honest with you, I've been exploring other virtual worlds. I know in the time that I don't have, I've been exploring other virtual worlds. I've been over to VR chat. So I've been to Sanzar, I've been to VR chat, and I've been exploring the world of virtual worlds. And they have things that Second Life doesn't have, and Second Life has things that they don't have. And one of the things that they have that I think would make a huge difference to the wrestling is they have visual emotional animation. Now, what I mean by that is me and you are talking now at this table, and I'm moving my hands in an animation, and my lips are sort of moving to the thing, and I'm sort of staring at the roof. Everything is very static. When you're in a virtual world like VR chat, you're moving your hands, you're talking, you're moving your head, your eyes are blinking, and it builds a connection between each other that feels very human. And I feel that a lot of things, particularly with promos and
facial
communicating language, yes, it gets lost. If I was to do that in VR chat, you would go, wow, like they're showing anger, they're showing emotion, they're showing, I believe what they're saying. But in VR, in SL, it's harder because we don't have that. We're just standing there with like our hands or like pointing, going, God damn it, you're going to get beaten next week. And I think that is the biggest limitation of Second Life. And that's something that I would love to see change. And I know Philip Linden is the same. He really wants to see something happen and wants to see more kind of like actual physical communication, because like Philip said in his meeting, he said that, you know, there's only 20% of actual communication which is verbal. The rest of communication is physical. It's all from the way you portray it, the micro expressions you produce, the tonality of your voice. There's a lot more that we actually lose in SL. And I think VR chat has a lot more than we do. But you can't wrestle in VR chat.
Well, let me ask you a question.
Because you have to actually wrestle.
Is there, I mean, I know there's HUDs like for your facial expressions and stuff like that, but is like there a HUD where like you could be able to put it in like say a Prime HUD and say, all right, you know, Paul Slater's in the ring, I'm cutting a promo, and BK comes out, and I can hit a button, I'm on a shock face right now, like within the HUD. Is there a way to actually integrate that?
No, that's something we haven't looked at.
I mean, without having 10 HUDs open on your, you know what I mean, to cause lag, without having all the HUDs and everything open for your head and all that stuff.
But again, I think a shocked face isn't enough. I don't. Right. I feel like there's a lot more that you're losing with physical communication. And I think that when we can fix that, when we can have somebody in the stage waving their arms around, pointing at people in the crowd, and, you know, like actually staring at the person, like as they come to ring, they turn their head to see the person's coming out. They don't have to like physically swivel their body, dead weird. Like, I think when you get to that stage, I think you're going to see like really what the difference is. Like, you won't be able to tell the difference between like a video game, real life, and Second Life, because there will be a person behind that. And I do feel like one of the ways they could fix this, and this is something that I know that Linden Labs are looking at, but not everyone can afford it, is, you know, like body tracking. So you have like balls on you. They're very expensive. They're like $700-800. They're very expensive. But there's phone apps that do it. There's one phone app called Viso, and which we use in VR chat, that you can put on your fireplace, and it gives you full body tracking in VR. So you can move your legs, your arms, everything. If they were able to integrate something like that, like a mobile app like Viso, into SL, you would be able to stand up and do your promo. So you would essentially be able to do that. I also think if they could bring in something like Viso and also VR to the to this, I think the ability to be able to switch between I'm wrestling, okay, I'm going to use my keyboard, and I'm doing a promo, I'm going to use full VR. I think you would see absolutely phenomenal interviews, phenomenal acting, and really be able to get in depth with some of the actual stuff that's going on, and it'd be an experience. I think anyone would. I mean, coming out of that main entrance is exciting enough as it is. Imagine doing that in VR.
It's funny, like
it would be phenomenal.
my wife always like there's been some times I've done promos like and I sit in like my computer's in my bedroom and my wife will sometimes be in the bedroom doing something and I'll be cutting a promo and she's like, after I'm done, she's like, why are you pointing at the screen while you're doing that?
But,
like,
yeah,
because I'm like into it and I'm like, if I'm saying I'm pointing and I'm making faces and I'm like into it behind and I'm like, I don't know, I'm just trying to get into my character. They don't have
exactly. All that is lost. All that is lost. All that work you're doing is lost, and that's what I want to capture. I think when we can capture that, I think that's the limit. That is the biggest limitation of SL is the communication is verbal and verbal alone.
All right, everybody,
and hopefully fixing it. We'll see.
Yeah, but thinking about it is how long. I mean, how long you have no idea how long it is. I mean, it took you a while to get the HUD together that we worked with. That took a lot, and you're talking about bringing something in, that affects you also in real life. Is there any clue on when you might even get to start doing something like that?
There's a difference now, because before we didn't have communication with Linden Labs. Now we do. And I know for a fact that Philip is interested in doing this, and it's something that's been at his pinnacle. The mobile is the first thing, because they want more people in Second Life. That's why they've opened gateways. That's why they've offered a lot of different things, and they're offering a lot of things for people to join, like free houses and all this other stuff. They're doing a lot of promotion because they want to get more people in. They've started integrating new stuff, new social stuff on the website. You'll see there's a new community section on the website, and there's a few other things that they're doing, and they're showcasing certain people in SL, like designers, things like Shop at a Hop, and they're trying to draw more people into SL. But the main thing at the moment for Philip is to make it so everyone can communicate with everyone. That's what he's doing right now. So we're talking about the languages.
Right.
But the next thing Phil's going to work on is going to be sorting out that last 60% of communication. Sanzar doesn't work. They're not doing too much with it. But the code behind Sanzar for the VR is still there. And if they integrate that into SL, they're not a million miles away from already getting there.
Well,
it's not as far away as you think.
Yeah, well, I actually reached out to Philip Linden on X, sent him a DM, and told him what we were doing with this show, and actually invited him on. He seemed to show a little bit of interest, and he hasn't gotten back. I mean, I'm sure he's a really busy man, but we're trying to get him on here, and then maybe that's something he can expand on.
Yeah. I mean, it's problem with Phil is like Philip Linden. I shouldn't call him Phil. We're not that close.
Big league.
Yeah. I mean, Phil, like. No, I mean, I've seen. For me, Philip Linden's like a bit of a god, because obviously I was there when, like you guys, the old times when he was the main person. He's got so many bits going on right now, and I think you've got to understand, like, his focus is with Linden Labs now. He's come back to it, but he's really been brought in as like Linden Labs right now is not the worst they've ever been, but they're not the best they've ever been either. They're like somewhere in the middle. They're trying to get better, and they're doing a lot of things. Some work, some don't work, and I think the thing that excites me with Phil being back is that his forefront has always been the community. It's always been the members. It's always been making sure that the members get what the members want. And I think having him in the position that he's in now is only going to benefit us. It's going to be great, because he's the kind of guy who will think outside the box and will create stuff like this. So, yeah, it might feel like a million miles away, but I think you're going to see movement real quick, because I can already see things on the website where they're doing more stuff with communities. We were given the community gateway shortly after Philip arrived. We hadn't heard anything for like 2 years, and then all of a sudden, we've got a community gateway. and the communication we've had with the Lindens, with the events that they've been doing and what they've been running, it's been amazing. Before, it was next to impossible to have communication with anyone. So I think he's really removing that line of we want what they want the same as what we want, because the members are what keep Second Life alive.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the conclusion of this one. And hey, Paul, I just got done checking the YouTube channel, and we're getting closer.
Getting closer.
We are
50 subscribers. BK, we had the big giveaway. We'll have more details when we hit 50 subscribers. So watch our videos, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button.
You got anything you want to say, LG, before we get out of here?
No, I just wondered what I win. What you got? 100 subscribers, I get a free car. What's?
No. We know this is basically SL based, and we know what. So we're starting with 50. So when we get to 50 subscribers, Paul's got some stuff he's going to be giving away. He won't even tell me what it is.
Yeah, we're starting slow. We're getting slow goals. LG. Let's hit 50, then we'll worry about 100, and then so on and so forth.
I tell you what, there's another thing that people say about me is I'm rich. Like, I've got loads of money in SL. I couldn't even afford to buy an SL car yesterday. I saw a car that I liked, and I was like, oh, I really like this. I didn't have the Linden dollars to buy the car. I'm currently sitting on 757 Linden dollars. That's what I've got in my account. Because I spent all my money on uploading. So I really don't have any money. Everyone's like, he must have like 30K in his account. No, I really.
All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. LG, thank you so much for coming by. Maybe we'll get you on here some other time when all this stuff has progressed and you can give us some updates.
We'd love you to come and have a look at the Community Gateway when it's finished. Maybe you could do a podcast over there.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, yeah, we do locations. All right, everybody. Enjoy yourselves. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you all next time.